Alright, I'm going to continue sharing my thoughts on the DC Rebirth titles that I've been reading. Which brings us to Volume 2 of Nightwing. In my previous video, I gave Nightwing like an A or an A+. Volume 1 called Better Than Batman, because it's a phenomenal book. It just really nails Dick Grayson and his relationship to Batman, and just a whole bunch of other things. You absolutely have to read it. That being said, I also have decided to abandon Letter's rating systems. I'm sorry, but they feel weirdly confining in an uneven fashion. So I'm going to numbers. Think of Batman, Nightwing, Volume 1, Better Than Batman, as being like a 10. Which brings us to Nightwing Volume 2. Back to Bludhaven. I should specify that I'm a huge fan of the Chuck Dixon run on Nightwing, and I'm also still a fan of the writers who followed him on that run as well, before the reboot and everything. And I'm a big fan of Bludhaven. I love it. I love it as a city. I love its characters. It's a fascinating, and Chuck Dixon put a lot of fascinating detail making it into this kind of unique and fascinating city. But I mean, it's very East Coast, too, type of city. But anyways, so this book's, Nightwing, Back to Bludhaven, actually opens up with a small story featuring Superman. Actually, it's Nightwing sort of bonding with the pre-52 Superman, who is now the main Superman. I just lost anyone casually interested in the comic book, but that's besides the point. I know that's weird and confusing and strange, but that's part of what comic books do. But anyways, he has an encounter with him, and it turns out his dreams are being plagued by Dr. Destiny, famous Batman villain. And so, while they're interacting, Superman tells Nightwing about how when he knew him, he hung out in Bludhaven, and whatnot, because they go to Bludhaven in Superman takes Nightwing to Bludhaven in one of his dreams because he doesn't realize it's not going to be familiar to this Rebirth Nightwing. So Nightwing, I guess, based off that, decides, hey, maybe I will check out Bludhaven. And here's the thing. This book is still really good, but it's a discernible drop off in nailing it from Volume 1. Like I said, Volume 1, 10. It's a 10. Nails it. Nightwing Volume 2 is still good, but not close to the other one. And the big thing about this is it just doesn't nail one thing, and that's Bludhaven. Now, they made some changes to Bludhaven. The only real change to Bludhaven is that it's now a casino town, which I'm cool with that. I could see that for Bludhaven. It's in a place that you would expect to have a boardwalk. But you see, the thing is, and I think the big part of this might be the art. And it's not that it's bad art. It's nice art. It's actually pretty good art. I enjoy it. It's kind of simple, has kind of indie romance comic vibe kind of to it. And actually, parts of the art feel kind of familiar to the guy who followed Scott McDaniels on the original Nightwing run. That being said, it makes Bludhaven less intimidating as a city. And see, that's the thing. In the original comics, Bludhaven is a cesspool. It's like the place it's like where all the shit that's been run out of Gotham goes to. And some of that's still in here. Which brings me to the other thing that I don't know how to feel about, and it could develop into something cool, but my first impression is, why would you do that? The comic book introduces a number of Bludhaven specific villains back into the comics, and the thing about it is that all these characters that they bring back from the Chuck Dixon run and the Chuck Dixon run are adults. In this book, they are teenagers. Most noticeably, the villain Stallion. They're not just villains. They're not just teenagers. They're not just villains. They're teenage villains who are going through like a rehab program where they're trying to escape their past as being a criminal, most of them henchmen type deal. The most significant of them being Stallion, who I think it's vaguely alluded to might be having his problems may stem from his repressed homosexuality. I think is actually implied in this comic book, but I might just be reading that. Oh, I know, there's the line. I engage in violence against men to satisfy my urge to be close to them. I mean, not necessarily gay, I guess, but I could kind of see them going that way with his character. And so there's a whole thing where all those villains are being framed for murders in the town. And that's and it's a cool story and whatnot, and it works out pretty well. But I'm not feeling the grit that should come with Bludhaven. And that's really the thing that's holding me back, because the first book nailed it. Nailed Nightwing and nailed his relationship to Batman. This one just doesn't nail Bludhaven the way I want it to nail Bludhaven. And was kind of expecting it to a certain degree. At a certain point in the comic, I was worried that he was gonna. This is tiny bit of a spoiler, but he does decide to stay in Bludhaven, and I'm happy about that. I'm actually really happy about that. I should also mention that another one of the focuses of this comic that actually works pretty well is his new romance with a reformed villain person. That being said, there's one scene that bothered me in the final chapter of this book, which is really all about their relationship and them dating. There's a part where they're talking to various people about who they're dating, and the first person he tells is of course Wally West, but the person that she calls to talk about the first time that she sleeps with him is Stallion, and I don't have a problem with her choosing Stallion. Gay best friends are awesome, I'm sure, for her and whatnot. But the thing that's not clear to me is, does Stallion know he's Nightwing? Because the story, I can't tell how many of these details of the story where she sleeps with Nightwing involve if she's telling him that he's Nightwing. Because I feel weird about the idea that Stallion would know that Nightwing is Dick Grayson because Nightwing's girlfriend can't shut the hell up. That's a weird thing. It's not clear. It's not clear. Although it's possible that everyone in that support group has figured out that he's Dick Grayson because he becomes a counselor and whatnot. But, okay, so in conclusion, it's a good book. I like that they're going back to Bludhaven. I like that they're starting to develop it. There's even a vague allusion where they sort of share some of the kind of details about Bludhaven, like Nightwing's talking about the type of city it is and whatnot. And there's sort of this crossover panel, whatnot. And it kind of displays a couple of the things, there's a Muslim woman in a car, because there's a big Muslim population in Bludhaven in the original comics. But it's also a heavily Irish population. And they show some of the casino stuff. And whales are still a big thing, so it's still an old whaling town. I'm really happy they're keeping that. That being said, I want them to bring back the police corruption. I want to see Detective Sloan. Oh, I'm also happy there is a brief reference to Lady Vic. So hopefully we'll be seeing more of Lady Vic in the future. And I do want Blockbuster. I do want them to bring back at least everything from the original Bludhaven for at least a little bit, because I think that those things deserve to exist in the Rebirth universe. Volume 1 is a 10. I've actually been struggling with what I want to give this one. I'm going to go with an 8. But a light 8. I'm going to have to add a half. Let's say that there's a thing between 8 and 9. This is an 8. Still worth reading. If you like Nightwing, definitely recommend it. I'm still going to be picking up this series. It's Volume 2 does not nail it quite like Volume 1. But I do recommend. Please like, subscribe, comment. If there's any particular comic book you'd like me to read, I'd be willing to read it and talk about it. Hopefully, I will be soon getting up a video on something no one has asked for, Ultimatum. I'm going to be talking about Marvel's Ultimatum, a storyline that no one cares about anymore, because it was several years ago, and it was awful. But that's why I want to talk about it. All right. Well, like I said, like, subscribe, comment. Peace out.